Hi, Taylor T. Carlson, and I'm back with another video for you today. Today we're looking at a movie that was released in 1997 but is only now making its debut on Blu-ray Disc. The film, of course, is Private Parts, the autobiographical film from Howard Stern based on his autobiography of the same name. Again, this movie's been out for a very long time, but surprisingly, Paramount is only just now releasing it on the Blu-ray disc format. And here's the inside of the disc case. It's pretty bare bones, nothing really to speak of there. Yeah, whether you love him or hate him, you know who Howard Stern is. He's been dubbed the king of all media, and there's really no getting away from this guy. He speaks his mind, he doesn't give a damn what other people think, and Private Parts is Stern's autobiography brought to film. We see his younger years back when he was a little boy going to radio stations with his father who worked there. We see him growing up through his awkward teenage and college years, eventually meeting the on-again, off-again love of his life, and then getting much more elaborate deals when whatever station he gets involved with seems to go up in the ratings despite the initial misgivings of station owners and executives. Eventually, he lands a very lucrative deal in New York City, but it's not long before the higher-ups try coming down on him because of his obviously unconventional and politically incorrect style on the radio. Now, I remember when I was a little boy, my parents would be driving me to school, and I come from a fairly conservative household, and sometimes one of the stations that we'd listen to on the way to school was a station that syndicated Howard Stern, and he'd be saying all this stuff that was just shocking that I would never hear in my old household. Like, I remember one time I'm riding to school with my mom in the car, and she turns it to Howard's show, and he starts making these penis jokes, and it's like, I was shocked to hear this on the radio. And then at times when I was at home in the evening, Howard Stern would appear on TV. I don't know if this was just like his own show or if he was on somebody else's show, but my parents absolutely did not want me listening to this man, which just further increased my enthusiasm and curiosity about who he was and what he was all about. Now, obviously, when Private Parts came out in theaters, I was only about 12 or 13 years old. I was not old enough to go to the theater and see an R-rated movie. And if I had asked my parents to take me to see the new Howard Stern movie, I'm sure they would have shot me down with no questions asked. So how does this fare as a movie, and how does it hold up nearly a quarter century later? The film is surprisingly good, surprisingly entertaining, and it certainly earns its R rating with its share of Howard Stern's share of politically incorrect humor and all the assorted situations that you see throughout the film. But it's a surprisingly sweet love story at times. The love between Howard and the love of his life when they first meet in this film. It's a pretty powerful story, and despite all of the much more harsh elements, it manages to focus more on that, and that prevents the movie from ever going off the rails and just seeming like an endless series of small penis jokes. It's a surprisingly good film, and even revisiting it all these years later, I think I'd only ever seen it once all the way through, like probably 10 years or so ago, but it definitely holds up, and even if you're not a fan of Howard Stern, you might want to check out the movie because it's pretty well made for what it is. I also want to add that in addition to Howard Stern playing himself, his longtime radio sidekick Robin Quivers also appears as herself, and the cast even includes the likes of Allison Janney and Paul Giamatti, the latter of whom plays a radio executive who's absolutely disgusted and pushed to his breaking point with Howard's own politically incorrect way of doing radio. Again, you may love Howard Stern, you may hate Howard Stern, but there's absolutely no question that this guy has made an impact in the world of media. And whether you love him or hate him, you know who he is. And with the arrival of Private Parts, he certainly showed us that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. 2 decades plus later, the movie still holds up. The way that the movie's done also includes a lot of scenes of Howard's radio crew introducing him to different cities depending on what part of the film it is, and these are pretty humorous. There's also brief little interview segments with certain members of the cast, so it's almost kind of similar to a Woody Allen movie in that respect, albeit it's a movie that has much more harsh, politically incorrect dialogue. But again, all the reason I just love it that much more. Private Parts actually looks pretty good in this Blu-ray disc. It's just a BD25 disc, but the picture's pretty sharp and detailed throughout. The black levels are pretty nice and deep, but it still maintains a pretty natural filmic look. This has not been overly processed or noise reduced or anything like that. The disappointment here, however, there are no bonus features of any kind in this package, not even a theatrical trailer. I know that there have been alternate scenes that have been shot for edited for TV broadcasts, and there have been work print versions of the movies that have some scenes that didn't make it into the final cut, so it would have been nice to see those on this disc, but again, it just feels kind of like a bare bones rushed disc despite the quality of the film and the transfer on here. I also picked up The Two Jakes, the sequel to Chinatown, and it's kind of the same way, so was kind of hoping we could get a more elaborate edition of the movie, but just happy to see it on Blu-ray. Are you a Howard Stern fan? Have you seen Private Parts yet? Let me know what you think down below, even if you've had a chance to pick up this disc. Also remember to comment down below, share all your feedback with me, just keep it appropriate. Like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to my channel for more content. I'm Taylor T. Carlson, and I will see you next time.